Team so much for leading us this morning in worship. Yeah, I'm so glad to see you guys here this morning. I don't know, the weather's turning nice. Mask mandates are dropping. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty darn good. I'll tell you what. If this is your first time here, I'm glad that you're here. My name is Matt. My wife Amber and I are the pastors. Maybe you're tuning in online for the first time. That's great. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here today. The first step to getting connected around here is you can just text into the office. You send me a text, say guest to the office number in. It'll link you back, a little card, you fill it out, kind of just a who are you, so we can start to get you connected. And we love to make new friends, so I'd love to get the opportunity to get to know you a little better. But if this is your home church, at the same time, we're going to receive tithes and offerings. And so you can do that. There's drop boxes in the building if that's more convenient for you. You can go to the website, or you can just text give in, and it texts you the link right back. And so let's pray over those. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for all that you've given us and how much you have blessed us. God, I ask that as the money, as we continue to return the tithe back to the church, God, I ask that those financial resources would go to make your name famous everywhere that they are spent. In the name of Jesus, amen, 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 amen. We're going to get right into the message, but before that, we just have a quick little video. So we're starting a brand new series on communion, and we're going to be talking about the bread and the wine. The bread and the wine. You're like, did that guy actually bring wine to church? Yeah, I did. Actually, I did. It is a Malbec from Argentina. I don't think this is what Jesus served, to be fair. And although it looks like I am actually going to be drinking grape juice today, not wine, just for the record. I think by the end of the sermon, I would think I was funny, but you wouldn't. So it would just be an awkward for everyone. Of course, I was told that that's how it goes every week, so but first, of course, as we all know, I only tell bad dad jokes on holidays, and we're all very well aware that today is National Chocolate Chip Day, right? Yes, we all know. Woohoo! That's right. And so what kind of chocolate do they sell at the airport? Plain chocolate. No. How does the recipe for German chocolate cake begin? First, we invade the kitchen. Yes. And last but not least, here's a math question on chocolate. If Jake has 30 chocolate bars and then Jake eats 25 of those chocolate bars, what does Jake have? Diabetes. Jake has diabetes. Yes. He has diabetes. This series actually sparked from a conversation that I had with a friend of mine named Robbie. And Robbie is he was a missionary in South Africa. He recently got married. He's expecting his first kid. We were driving down the road together, and this song came on, and I was like, man, I love this song. And he's like, yeah, this song's about communion? And I was like, communion? This song's not about communion. And he's like, no, listen to the lyrics. And so we start listening to the lyrics. I'm like, wow, that's really amazing that this song is about communion. And it sparked a thought in me, and it sparked a curiosity in me. And I just want to encourage you, if you're one of those people that says, I don't really feel like I get a lot of revelation from the Holy Spirit. For me, most of the time it starts as a spark of curiosity. A spark of curiosity. When you have one of those moments that sparks that's interesting. Don't just blow that off. That's the Holy Spirit poking you and prodding you and saying, hey, I want to show you something here. And so I had one of those moments, maybe about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, driving down the road. And it was just a poke, just a prod, just a something. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then he and I proceeded to talk about Jesus and his crucifixion. And we had just an amazing, beautiful Jesus conversation driving down the road. And that is what was the spark and the catalyst for me diving in and starting to research and study and starting to cultivate. And in the middle of this, I believe that God has changed a few things in my own heart and perspective in regards to communion. And I want to communicate to you because I think I can't be the only one. And sometimes as a pastor, it's like God has shown me something, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to show you, you know? And sometimes God has shown me something, and I'm just like, that isn't for everybody. That's just for me. But this is one of those things where I'm like, I know God showed this to me specifically to show it to you. And for some of you who've been seasoned believers for a long time, you might be like, really? You just now figured this out? You're the pastor of the church, bro. Like, just, hey, grace, it's all grace. No judgment. Take it down a notch. You're better than me. I get it. I get it. I'm not even trying to hide it. But yeah. So if here's another couple of things, right? If you have the curiosity, lean into it, see what God's doing, number one. And then the other one is this, is you need people in your life to have Jesus conversations with, right? You got to have that. If you don't have, that's why we have small groups. That's why we have connections. That's why we have, the body of Christ is not just gather, sit down for 30 minutes or however long we're going to do this. I'm going to be here for at least an hour. It's a lot of revelation. So that isn't coming to sit back row and disappear thing. The body of Christ is coming together, but also connecting in a way that you're going to have Jesus conversations everywhere that you go. You've got to have people in your life that are doing that. Iron sharpens iron. The friction of thoughts and believers dreaming and praying and talking together will deepen your faith if you will let it. If you will let it. Conflict is not a bad thing. Doubt is not a bad thing. All those things should drive you deeper into God's word. And so as long as they're driving you deeper into God's word, then it's going to help you. So all of this that I'm going to talk about is just from a moment driving down the road with a friend of mine, and a song came on the radio, and it sparked a conversation that just curiosity started coming out, and I'm like, I've got to dive deeper. I've got to look. I got to research. I started reading books. I started reading other authors, other scholars, other people, and it's like I'm reading the scripture, but then some parts of the scripture, I'm like, this is a little bit confusing, right? There's parts of this that we're going to look at that at face value are a little bit odd, and so, which is great whenever you find those things. Be curious, dive deeper, look further. Don't just brush it off and be like, I don't understand that part, move on, you know? And baby Christians will do that. So if you're a new believer, you're like, I don't get that part, and you move on. Okay, but as you're growing in your faith, don't allow the I don't quite understand it to just be like, whatever, it doesn't apply to me. You know what I mean? Like start to dive deeper. I'm not even in my notes yet, you guys. This is going to be a long day. Get ready. I know. It's all, and we'll see what's going to happen today. I don't know. So I'm a pastor's kid. And so growing up as a pastor's kid, there's some unique experiences that I had that you non-pastor's kids may or may not have experienced. And so I had the privilege of sitting in the back because I was always running tech stuff. I was guys in the booth. These guys in the booth, they do a great job. And I sat in the booth for years and years. And I would watch from a distance, and I would see things happening. And communion was one of those things that changed from time to time. It changed from time to time, right? So there was a time when we had those little like octagon crackers that came on the silver tray, and they passed by along with the big tray of other little cups of juice, you know, and old school silver stuff comes sliding by, and you take one down, pass it around, and 98 little cups of juice in the tray. And I don't know what is into me this morning, guys. You're just on a roll. That's all I'm going to say. I guess, yeah, it's right. Holy Spirit, right? I don't know. I did not have any wine, I promise. I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh, I know where I was going with that. There was this one iteration of communion process where we had one giant loaf of bread, and then we had one cup. And the idea was that you would take the bread and you would come up and you would peel off a piece of bread, and then you would dip it in the cup for the juice, and then you would eat it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing for communion. It was like this weird thing. But there's always There's always one. There's always one. There's one. Somebody grew up Episcopalian. Somebody grew up very liturgical, and they want to drink from the cup. Everybody's dipping, and there's a drinker. And you're like, they come up and they take a sip, and then they like have a little napkin and they wipe it and rotate it. We're all gonna get coronavirus and die. Like, there's always one. So as a pastor's kid, I was like, where is that guy? And I'm like getting in line before him, right? I'm getting in line. I'm like, so here's the deal. It's like, as you're doing this, every person has the one hand that grabs the loaf and the other hand peeling the chunk, right? So the closer you are to the front of the line, the less likely you are to die. And so I get sick. It's like a church potluck up in there. There's always one dish. You never know. And so I would always watch this process, and I had strategy because I'm like, no, I'm going to make sure that I get on the front end of the line. But then there was a point where I was a teenager, and that stuff didn't matter because, as a teenager, hygiene kind of slips. There's a few years of hygiene. How many parents have teenagers right now? And you're like, you are preaching to me. I understand the hygiene slip, right? You've seen the hygiene slip. It starts to happen. And so there's a point where, as a pastor's kid, I had like a goal to find the leftover bread at the end of the service and just eat the whole thing because I'm growing, right? And there is no consideration of the fact that like 100 people had put their grubby paws all over this thing. God only knows where those hands have been. And I'm just like, I have no regard for that. And I'm just ripping. I'm like, I'm ripping and eating up all the leftover bread. And I don't know what it was as a pastor's kid. But communion was this thing where it was like, I had strategy and I had like these things I wanted. And I don't know. All I know is this, is that if a communion is one of those things that we do as a church, and everybody has different traditions. Some churches, some traditions will do it every single week. Every week they take communion together as a body of believers. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people will do it once a month. Some traditions will twice a year. It's Christmas and Easter. They make a huge deal about it, right? They make a big deal about it, and it's fine. And there's different traditions that do different things. We kind of try to mix it up a little bit, and I don't know what we're doing. Now we do the Corona pods. Throw me one of those. We had to like change it up, and now we have the Lunchables of yeah, you did throw. Yeah, so you have the Lunchables. You guys see these now. We hand these out now in the front, and these are terrible, aren't they? And so, but you have to peel the clear part off to get to the what is this? Styrofoam, yeah. And then you peel the foil off, and it's like, and you don't want to like spill it when you're doing it, right? You don't want to. And so you have to like be really careful. And I remember when we made the decision to go to these things, we were like, I don't know, let's try it out. And the decision came because we're going from one service to two services. We're like, how do we logistically change out everything, back-to-back services, to be able to do it with all the cups and the bread and the crackers? And we're like, logistically, that's going to be a nightmare. What if we tried this out? Let's try this out and see if this works. And it worked. And then, of course, COVID hit, and then like everybody disappeared, and the church shrunk way down, and then we couldn't even meet for a while. But then we finally got back together. It's like, well, shoot, we can do this because this is COVID safe now. And so we're doing it. But I want to encourage you that just because we do it with this stuff here doesn't mean you can't do it with something else at home. I want you to understand this. And if you can take anything from this today, is like you don't need to have it. You don't need to have communion here. You can have communion at home. You can take communion anywhere that you want to take communion. And this is a thing where the title of today's message is saying surrounded by Jesus. We are surrounded by Jesus. And this is important because this meal, this wine and bread, or grape juice and bread, these are, I think, dinner rolls that we're doing here. I mean, I don't care what, you get some fruit punch and donuts, it doesn't matter to me, right? I don't know, maybe that's wrong. But this meal positions you to be fed from the Lord. It shifts something on the inside that it's not just bread and juice or bread and wine. It is not just, it's like, oh, this is not just these products. No, there is something that happens on the inside when we position ourselves the right way when we're taking communion. It's not a snack, right? It's like, sweet, we got a mid-service snack. No, this is not a snack. This is not supposed to be necessarily physical nourishment, although if you eat and drink enough of it, you certainly could get physically nourished. This is nourishment for your spirit and your soul. This is a connection that is spiritual. It is deeper than just the products you're putting into your mouth. There is something else that is bigger than this that's going on, if you will let it be. If you will let it be. He prepares the table and he invites you to it. Jesus prepared the table and he invites you to it. And at this table and at this meal, there is something that happens, and there's provision from the Lord that happens in here. And this is where we talk about sickness and disease. We talk about the power of what Jesus did on the cross. So many tables for communion say, in remembrance of me. What are we remembering? We're remembering that Jesus died on the cross. And what happened when he died on the cross? He paid the price for sin. And he took your sickness and disease and your sin, and he paid the price for it. What happens at the table is us recognizing and humbling ourselves and submitting and saying, yes, Jesus, you have already paid the price. You have paid the price. The table brings healing. And you have to personally sit and allow Jesus to minister to you. I can't make you. Nobody can make you. This is only you. This is you and Jesus. Can you sit and participate in this moment and say, Jesus, I'm sitting at your table and I need you to minister to me. And when you're doing this, you're remembering what Jesus did. And it's not just a moment in between songs 2 and 3 when we talk about it. And it's not just a moment. It's more than that. It's, can you sit at the table and remember and allow him to minister to you? There's a moment of like silence and maybe even waiting that comes along with this. And it's something you can do at any time. At any time. Because there's life and there's healing in the blood and the body of Jesus. Okay, we're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 through 24. I'm sorry, 23 through 34. We have like the whole thing in here. Maybe even, I think we're going to pick up at 18 actually. So we're going to read all kinds of verses today. Yep. For those, I think that in like preacher school they tell you don't read too many verses. We're breaking all the rules. We have alcohol on the stage. I mean, whoa, it's unopened. We're breaking all the rules today. All right, in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, starting at verse 18. For in the first place, when you come, oh, wait, hold on. I got to set this up. I skipped a section. I wander from my notes and things get crazy. And so Paul is writing this letter to the church in Corinth, and there's a problem going on, and so he's writing a letter. He's actually correcting them and saying, yo, you guys are doing it wrong. Like, hey, and so as he's talking through and correcting these guys and saying, no, you're doing communion wrong. Let me explain it to you. So this is what he says. For in the first place, when you come together as a church, I hear that there are divisions among you, and I believe it in part. For there must be factions among you in order that those who are genuine among you may be recognized. When you come together, it's not the Lord's Supper that you're eating. For in eating, each one of you goes ahead with his own meal. One goes hungry, another gets drunk. What? Do you not have houses to eat and drink in? Or do you despise the church of God and humiliate those who have nothing? What shall I say to you? Shall I commend you in this? No, I will not. It sounds like there's some inequality happening in the house of God. Some people are eating to the point of where they're gorged and stuffed, and some people are hungry. Some people are drinking to the place where they're drunk, and other people haven't had anything. It seems like there's this rift that's happening. It's like, what is going on over there? You know, and I'm telling you right now, if you're going to eat these wafers until you get full, you deserve it, all right? That is a price to pay. I don't want to see what happens later. All right, sounds like there's some inequality, right? Some are getting drunk, some are hungry. Paul's writing to address some of these issues that are going on at the communion table. And he's like reminding people, hey, this is what this is all about. And so he goes back and says, remember when? Verse 23, for I received from the Lord what I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, this is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And in the same way, also he took the cup after supper, saying, this cup is a new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. That's in the Gospels. You see that. But this next sentence is actually an addition. And this is interesting. It says, for as often as you eat and drink the cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. For as often. How often? I don't know. Often. How often do you want to take communion? How often do I'm going to say that if you want to do it twice a year on Christmas and Easter, do it twice a year on Christmas and Easter. You want to do it once a month? Do it once a month. Once a week? Do it once a week. You want to do it every day? Here's what we're going to uncover in here is that there's something that happens at the table. And when you take those things that have been oppressing you, those things that you have been wrestling with, and when you say, I'm going to submit these to the lordship of Jesus, I don't know about you, sometimes I'm in a season where I need to do that more often than twice a year. Come on, right? Like sometimes it's more often than once a week. Sometimes I'm in such a tough season that it's every day. I have to go, God, I just need to give this to you now. And I just can't carry this. And if you're anything like me too, pastor confession time, I will set it down and say, Jesus, I need you to take care of this. And almost like 10 seconds later, I'm somehow picking it back up again and I'm mulling over it and I'm like stressing and anxietying. And then I'm like, wait, no, God, I said I was going to give it to you. Oh yeah, I'm going to give it to you. And then like a minute later, I'm like back again, like dwelling on it. Oh, my precious, and I struggle and I'm a victim. And so like so you got to be able to say, no, can I really just give it and leave it? That process might be something you even do every hour. And when you sit and you physically sit and you eat and you drink and you say, I am doing communion right now in my house, and Jesus, I am giving this and submitting it to your lordship. I'm submitting to your lordship. It might be something that you have to do on a more regular basis in certain seasons of your life. And that's okay. And you don't need a pastor to come and give it to you. Y'all got some stuff in your house and you can make it happen. You can make it happen. Of course, if you're drinking real wine every hour, that might be a different problem. Should clarify that. I am not advocating for hourly wine. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. You proclaim. Say proclaim. Proclaim. Proclaiming is what? It's announcing, declaring. I feel like I'm proclaiming. I'm preaching. You might have to just be preaching the Lord's death until he comes. Why does that even matter? Why would I need to proclaim the Lord's death until he comes? Because we're basically saying, remembering what Jesus did in the past. I'm saying, I'm declaring that what Jesus did on the cross is enough for me. I'm declaring what Jesus did on the cross is enough for this situation. When you're declaring and you're preaching and you're proclaiming and Jesus in the pastor, you're basically saying, Jesus, you're enough for me. And what you did was enough for me. And there's nothing more. I'm going to just continue to declare it. Christ crucified, his death is so significant. It's where he met us. And it's in his death that we find life. Because he paid the price for sin. He paid the price of what's been holding us back. We find freedom in what Jesus did on the cross. Then when we declare that, when we preach that, when we proclaim that, come on. We've got to be people who are proclaiming and declaring and saying, what Jesus did on the cross was good enough for me. What he did is he's the anchor of our faith. And as Christians, we find life when we identify with his death. Now, often as you do this, proclaim his death until he comes. Verse 27, whoever therefore eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty concerning the body and the blood of the Lord. Let a person examine himself then, and so eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For anyone who eats and drinks without discerning the body eats and drinks judgment on himself. That is why many of you are weak and ill, and some have died. But if we judge ourselves truly, we would not be judged. But when we are judged by the Lord, we are disciplined so we may not be condemned along with the world. Wait. So if we don't do this right, it's going to kill me? Like I'm going to die? That seems weird, doesn't it? You ever read those verses like this one, you're like, a lot of judgment going on there. Like I got to do it right or I'm going to be judged. And as a kid, I used to think this, and honestly, up until, 6 months ago, if I can be honest, I had a little bit of an out of adjustment view of what this portion of Scripture was saying. And so, listen, I'm learning, I'm growing. You should be learning and growing your faith, right? There's room for this. And so I would look at this and be like, man, you got to do it right. Shoot, I better like make a list of every sin I've ever committed. And then like make sure I've confessed all of my sin to Jesus before I even participate in communion. Otherwise, there's going to be judgment and I'm going to die. That's how I was always approaching it. And then what? You get the cold. Oh, I forgot that little sin last time I took communion. Just got a little sick, you know. You get the Rona, maybe a medium-sized sin you forgot. Yeah. That guy over there got cancer. Oh, he really screwed up communion last time. Right? What kind of weird, sick, and twisted approach to the grace of God is that? Yet most of my life, I was approaching communion from this perspective of like, if I don't get everything confessed, if I don't do enough, he won't forgive me. Listen, it's not about anything that you've done. You're not worthy. I'm not worthy to come to this table at any given point in my life. You got to understand, like, we are sinners, and it's only by grace have we been saved. Right? There's nothing that I can do to earn a spot at the table. Nothing. The only way I get a spot at the table is if I get invited to it. And lucky for you and me, Jesus has already invited you and he's already invited me to have a seat at the table. The only thing that we have to do is just say yes. We just have to accept it. That's it. That's it. There's no other way. Which is wait. So what? Wait. If you're not doing it right, then you're bringing judgment on yourself. Perhaps what he's referencing to is where we started in the same verse. The inequality between the people. So here's what was happening is the rich people were providing all the food for the whole party. And those who were less fortunate, those who were lower incomes or poor and couldn't afford to bring all the food, they would come. But the rich people would say, well, we bought the food, so we're going to enjoy it first, and you're going to get the leftovers. And so there was this inequality that's happening. You see, the table is a place where unity and equality should always be. It should always be there. In a world right now where it's full of division and strife and hate, and there's so much dividing and judgment that's happening right now in our country, and the church, the table of Jesus Christ, should be the place where we can all sit and unify around this. I don't care what the color of your skin is. I don't care how much money you make or don't make. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who you vote. I want you to vote because that's a right we have in our country. Don't abandon that. But I don't care if you're red or blue or if you're somewhere in the middle or out in the extremes. I don't care. What I care is this, and Jesus doesn't care. This is what he cares about. He wants you at the table. That's what he wants. He wants you at the table when you have a seat and you say, Jesus, I'm going to bring everything that I am, and I'm going to remember and celebrate your death, and I'm going to say, I submit it all to you. He is the King and the Lord of your life. Because no one is worthy to come without the invitation that Jesus has already given each and every one of us. I got 3 points. And I think we'll be out of here at a reasonable time. And everybody said, Number 1, the table of healing. The table of healing. This table right here, it's available to everyone. It is. You might be here this morning and you've never given your life to Jesus. Maybe you have never made the decision to follow Christ. You can be here this morning. You may be watching online, and this is maybe your first encounter. And I want to tell you, today can be your day. You're sitting at home, go get some bread and something to drink, some juice, and we're going to do it all together here at the end. But listen, Jesus is inviting you. No matter how close you are or how far you are from him, the invitation stands. And you don't get a better or worse seat at this table depending where you're at in your walk with the Lord. The invitation's there. It's equal. It's fair. It's just. It's right. Jesus already extends that. And so maybe you've never given your life to Jesus because you haven't fully understood it. Today can be your day. Today can be the day where you say, you know what? I'm going to accept this, and I'm going to make Jesus the Lord of my life, and today I'm going to have a seat at the table. And so that might be you today. I don't know where you're at in your walk, but I can tell you this, that this is the table of healing. It brings healing to your soul. It brings healing to your spirit. It brings healing into your life from your pain and your trauma, from the things that should not have happened to you. He wants to bring healing to that. I don't care how bad it is, whatever should have happened to you, that happened to you that shouldn't have. He can bring healing to that. He can bring healing to that. Well, I don't know if Jesus really understands. Think about this. He was actually betrayed at the table. He knew who his betrayer was. When Judas was there, he was like, one of you will betray me. And he's literally serving him the bread and the wine, saying, this is my body, this is my blood. He is building the covenant that he is about to commit when he's on the cross. He is literally putting the structure in place, looking at his accuser in the eye, at the traitor in the eye, and inviting him to still sit at the table. There is nothing that you have done that can remove you from the love of Christ. Nothing. Nothing. The invitation still stands. I don't care what you think you've done, but the invitation still stands for you. So we've got to learn to feed from this table. He fed his betrayer, and he forgave him and loved him even up to and through the moment of betrayal. It's crazy. We have to learn to feed from this table. What are you feeding your soul? My dad used to say things like, garbage in, garbage out. I think every dad says that at some point in time, some version of that. What you're putting in is what's going to come out. And when we're under pressure, the things that we don't think are in there come out. I don't know about you guys, but the last year and a half, we've been under a lot of pressure. And I've seen a lot of things come out of my mouth and other people's mouths that I didn't think were in there. What would I call that? Not the fruit of the Spirit. How about that? Right? Oh, I'm just loving Jesus. And then you get under a little bit of pressure, and then all of a sudden stuff's coming out, and you're like, where's that coming from? Well, it got in there somewhere, and now it's coming out. What are you feeding your soul? What are you feeding? What are you eating from? What tree? What music are you listening? What are you watching? And I'm not saying you can't enjoy a good 90s rap song every now and again. I'm just, because those beats are sick. But I'm just saying, like you can't, I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying, where are you feeding? What's your nourishment coming from? What are you, right? You got to consider what you're putting into your body. If you're not eating right physically, it'll mess you up and get you sick. Same thing spiritually. What are you feeding yourself? You can't just eat junk food all the time and expect to be spiritually healthy, right? This is kind of common sense. Every once in a while, you just break down and have a McDonald's or something, but you can't do that all day long, or else you won't. It'll be different kind of. Well, that's what they're talking about, right? Judgment and sickness. Listen, the worthy manner. You got to come to the table in a worthy manner, and that worthy manner is this: is acknowledging your need for a Savior. When you come to the table and you sit, you're humbling yourself and acknowledging your need for a Savior. Number 2, the table of faith. See, this judgment thing, right? It's the only thing that will set you free from judgment is this. The only one that can judge you is God, right? And if he sets you free from judgment on the cross, then all our judgments are released from you. The power of the cross breaks the judgment. And when you are sitting at the table, participating in the body and the blood of Christ and declaring and proclaiming his death, you are saying, I am sitting underneath of that act. That act right there is what I'm declaring and proclaiming. And when you sit and you're doing this, you live from a place of where you are free from the judgment of God because you understand that the judgment of God has been deflected and removed from your life by the power of the cross. By the power of the cross. So if we don't evaluate this correctly, we remain in judgment. You were condemned and Jesus has set you free. So the table becomes this like judgment-free zone. We can come together of every background, of every process, everything we've been through. So many times we look at each other, we look to the left and the right, and we'll compare each other. It's human nature. We judge each other all the time, and it's I'm a judgment-free person. No, you rank people. It happens. You do it all the time, and not all judgment is bad. I'm just going to let you know. Sometimes it's discernment, and you got to be wise, right? But it's so easy to walk down the street and see maybe a homeless person on the side of the road and be like, well, I'm in a better place than they are. And then you can look to the other side and see somebody else with a bigger house and a nicer car and whatever else and be like, well, they're in a better place than I am. But when you sit at the table, we're all equal. At this table, it's equality. At this table, we're all the same under Jesus. All the same under Jesus. We're examining ourselves to see what is wrong. Well, wait a minute, that isn't it. I'll tell you what, it's not hard to figure out what's wrong with you, huh? Like you really think, well, what's wrong with me, right? If you sit and think about it, I don't know about you, but I can come up with a list. On me, not on you. I mean, maybe on you, I don't know. But I can figure out what's wrong with me real easy, real fast. And that isn't what this is about. It's not about that. It's not about what's wrong with me. It's saying this, is that test yourselves and see if you're in the faith. Test yourself and see, are you following Jesus? Are you still proclaiming his death? We're fighting the good fight of faith, and we're examining ourselves for faith. And are we putting ourselves in the right position? And my final point is this, and then we're going to take communion, and I'm done with this. And you see, this is where we fight our battles. This is where we start to have things in life will come at you. And our temptation is to stand up from the table and go and fight the things that are coming at us. We've got a boss, we've got a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, a kids, we've got relationships, we've got financial issues, we've got marriage issues, and I want to stand up and I want to go fight those things. That's what I want to do. That's my natural inclination. But you see, Jesus has been setting up tables for a long time. For a long time. This isn't the first table he set up. In Psalms 23, you can read about another table that was set. And it says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you're with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And you anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You know what's impacting you. You know what's surrounding you. You know, like, the things that are distracting you from the table, and you're saying, like, well, I got to go take care of this, and I got to go take care of this, and I got to go take care of this. And I want to submit it to Jesus, and I do for like 10 seconds, and I pick it back up again, and I want to continue to like struggle about what's messing me. You know what's surrounding you. But I'm telling you, in the midst of the struggle, in the midst of the darkest nights, in the midst of the hardest times, Jesus prepares a table in the presence of your enemies. And he says, come and sit and be with me. You see, the fight is bringing these things to the table. For this reason, you're weak and sick and dying. And I want to say this reason at the table, I'm strong and I'm healthy because I find faith in this meal. This meal provides healing. This meal, it provides wholeness. It provides destiny. It provides purpose. It provides strength. And some of you are in the middle of a season of warfare right now where it's really, really intense. And if that's your battle and that's where you're at, this might be something that you need to do a little more often than once a month or once a week. It might be something that needs to become a daily habit in the midst of the fight. So church, will you open it up? Grab your communion cup, Lunchable. We're going to do this together. And the clear part comes off, and there's a little wafer. And then if you haven't done this already, you'll struggle, and we all do it. It's fine. And you get the cracker, and then you get the juice, and you can get it ready. And I can tell you that I'm going to eat the good stuff because I can, because I got real bread and real juice. And so here's what we're going to do, is that we're going to participate in communion together as a church. Because he prepares this table. Watch, we're going to eat. and we're going to drink and we're going to sit in the presence of God, or stand and worship in the presence of God.
There's a table that you've prepared for me in the presence of my enemy. It's your body and your blood you've shed for me. This is how I fight my battle. There's a table that you prepared for me in the presence of my enemy. It's your body and your blood you've shed for me. This is how I fight my battle. And I believe you've overcome, and I will lift my song of praise for what you've done. This is how I fight my battles. 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 This is how. In the valley, I know that you're with me. And surely your goodness and mercy follow me. So my weapons are praise and thanksgiving. This is how I fight my battle. And I believe you've overcome, and I will lift my song of praise for what you've done. This is how I fight my battles. 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 This is how.
So here's what I know. I know that Jesus died on the cross and already won the battle. And so all we're doing is we're saying, yeah, I fight my battles not by standing up in my own strength and going after and attacking everything. Because that's what the world tells us, right? Oh, you got to get up and you got to do, go. You better craft that text message, send that email. You got to be able to say those words. You got to position yourself. You got to make sure that you're doing. No, here's what you got to do. You sit at the table. Say, Jesus, I believe that you've already fought these battles. God, I feel surrounded and they're coming in and I don't know what to do. But here's what I know. You might feel surrounded by what the world is coming at you. You might feel surrounded by what's happening around you. It might be straight up spiritual warfare. There might be healing that you're calling upon you need breakthrough and you're surrounded. But what I know is you're still surrounded by Jesus because he will surround you.
It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you.
Come on, lift your voices.
It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how.
Come on, let's give Jesus a round of praise. God, we praise you, Jesus, for what you've done. Amen, amen, amen. It's the weirdest communion song ever, right? Yeah, it's so good. Anyhow, guys, it's been amazing. I hate to end the service here, but we're going to end the service here. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful week. And I just want to encourage you, participate in communion even at home, maybe as couples, as families. This is a weapon that you can use in your spiritual war that you're fighting every day. God bless you in Jesus' name.